The first thing that appears in front of us when we check our phones in the morning is the time. From the timelessness of sleep, we are immediately plunged back into the world of clock time, which we are conscious of to the minute. Seldom is it the sun which guides us with its temporal compass, but our phones. In a world structured around schedules, deadlines, and calendars, to lose track of time is to risk being left behind. In Greek myth, Cronus devours his children so that none could overthrow him. In Roman thought, he becomes Saturn, and later traditions associate him with the similarly named Kronos, the personification of time. From this symbolic merging was born the image of time as an old father who consumes everything he creates. Today, we have internalized Saturn. We are consumed by deadlines, subservient to our schedules. Time stands over us like an aging father, reprimanding us for every wasted second. We march along a linear passageway of productivity until our eventual retirement and death. Our culture has internalized the sentiment that productivity is virtue and idleness sin. Even our leisure must be scheduled to be valid. With calendars and reminders, we visualize our life as grids of commitments, where empty slots feel like wasted time. The values of our society often crawl their way into our internal dialogue, where we berate ourselves if we are not productive enough. Time creeps into our language, and we speak of time as a currency. We speak of saving time, spending time, and wasting time. Time is a commodity. Time is money. But this way of understanding time says more about us. We have clung on to a narrow interpretation of time that defines how we see it as a whole. We have invented a technology of time based on clocks that conditions how we see it. As a result, we're burning out, choked by time, caged within a prison of our own making, where we stand as both prisoner and guard. This video essay traces how time moved from shadows and seasons to bells and gears, shifting from a way of experiencing the world into a system of discipline, measured by clocks, moralized through habit, and absorbed into our conscience. We built the clock to measure time, and we ended up living inside it. Before the mechanical clock, there was already a long history of devices used to measure time. In ancient Egypt, sundials and shadow clocks were used to measure the time by tracking the movement and angle of the sun's shadow on marked surfaces as it moved across the sky. The Egyptians divided the day into 12 parts, but these were seasonal hours, not fixed 60-minute hours. In summer with longer daylight, an hour was longer. In winter, shorter days meant shorter hours. The year itself revolved around 3 seasons, tied to the Nile rather than months. Akhet, the flooding season, Peret, the growing emergent season, and Shimu, the harvest season. The Egyptian relationship to time was tied to cycles in nature. For the Babylonians, the stars were a clock. The night sky was divided into segments based on when certain stars or constellations rose over the eastern horizon. They memorized which stars appeared at what point in the year and night through repeated observation. Each star and constellation would appear at repeated intervals, like celestial clock hands. The Babylonians also used water clocks to measure the time. A container would be used that either fills or empties at a steady rate. By placing markings around the container, you could tell how much time had passed based on the water level. This was ideal for the Babylonians, unlike shadow clocks, since they could be used in darkness, allowing priests to measure the hours of the night, time ritual offerings, and record the rising and setting of the stars with greater precision. Where the Egyptians used the sun as a clock, and the Babylonians the stars and water, in later centuries in China, incense clocks were used to measure time. Powdered incense was placed in a groove, either a straight line or a spiral, where over time the incense would burn through different sections, filled with unique aromatic materials. Whether it be sandalwood, clove, or cinnamon, as the incense burned through each segment, the fragrance in the air subtly changed. Here, our sense of scent, rather than sight, was used to tell the time. One timekeeping device, however, was soon to dominate all of these methods and permanently alter the way we understood time. This took place in Europe in the Middle Ages. As a piece of technology, the clock is a machine that produces uniform seconds, minutes, and hours on an assembly line pattern. Processed in this uniform way, time is separated from the rhythms of human experience. The mechanical clock, in short, helps to create the image of a numerically quantified and mechanically powered universe. In medieval Europe, the rule of Saint Benedict structured monastic life around fixed daily prayers, which were known as the canonical hours. The day was divided into 8 segments of prayer, starting with dawn. Initially, the monks used natural light, water clocks, or designated monks staying awake to signal prayer. Later, bells were attached to monasteries and rung at the canonical hour times to call monks to prayer. In the 11th and 12th centuries, monasteries, cathedrals, and churches throughout Europe installed bell towers. These were not only used for prayer, but to regulate public life in towns, such as the start of the workday or midday mealtime. The church tower was the clock long before the clock face existed. Water clocks, hourglasses, and sundials carved into stone were all used as aids to know what time the bell should ring. Around the late 13th to early 14th century, in northern Italy and southern Germany, something revolutionary happened. These bell devices evolved into the first mechanical clocks. They used falling weights to provide energy and gears and wheels to transfer that motion. The version folio escapement mechanism was invented, which released energy in steady, equal beats for the first time in human history. This was the birth of clock time as we know it today. Time became a sequence of quantifiable, identical units, no longer tied to shadows, stars, or water. This new technology emerged as a powerful tool for social ordering. Not only prayers and work, but eating and sleeping began to accommodate themselves to the needs of the clock. It was the clock that reinforced the sentiment to eat not simply when we were hungry, but when it was time to eat. These clocks soon gained faces and a single hour hand by the late 1300s. By the 16th century, these clocks began showing minute hands. In 1656, the Dutch scientist Christian Huygens invented the pendulum clock, where accuracy jumped from a margin of error of 50 minutes a day to 15 seconds a day. This was the first time that seconds ever became meaningful units of measurement. Time was no longer a flow based on the rate of change of the sun or water, but a division of identical ticks. For the first time in history, time no longer followed life, but life followed time. Clock time began to increasingly move from the town square into the inside of our conscience. We began to internalize this new understanding of time. Richard Baxter was an English Puritan minister, theologian, and moral reformer, whose writings were influential in shaping Protestant attitudes towards time and personal discipline. He wrote manuals for ordinary families, teaching them to treat every minute as something that must be accounted for before God. In his Poor Man's Family book, it is written, "Let the time of your sleep be so much only as health requireth, for precious time is not to be wasted in unnecessary sluggishness." In his Christian dictionary, Baxter writes, "Use every minute of it as a most precious thing, and spend it wholly in the way of duty." The image of time as currency is strongly marked here with the use of words such as spend. With the Puritan moralization of time came the conception of time as a commodity that could be saved and spent. Time was something that need not be wasted. The beginnings of the sentiment, time is money, were emerging. Where the Protestants were known for their stern focus on personal discipline, the Methodists doubled down even harder. The Methodists were hyper-disciplined Protestants. They did not break from Protestant beliefs, but intensified them. One of the founders of Methodism, John Wesley, would himself write of time as a kind of currency. "See that ye walk circumspectly," says the apostle, "redeeming the time, saving all the time you can for the best purposes, buying up every fleeting moment out of the hands of sin and Satan, out of the hands of sloth, ease, pleasure, and worldly business." By the Industrial Revolution, the moralization of the clock was not simply a matter of faith, as for the Puritans and Methodists, but entered into the world of commerce and labour. With factories and wage labour, time was less centred in the church and more in the marketplace. Work was no longer paid by task, harvest, or season, but hours. Time became not just increasingly measurable, but purchasable. In Benjamin Franklin's essay, Advice to a Young Tradesman, he writes, "Remember that time is money. He that can earn 10 shillings a day by his labour, if he sits idle one half of that day, has really thrown away 5 shillings. The sentiment of time as a commodity, hinted at by the Protestants and Methodists, had now fully crystallised. Clocks now resided on factory walls and in workers' pockets. Being late became a financial loss. Time discipline became essential to the economic ordering of society. Fast forward to the 21st century, and these factory bells would evolve into phone and calendar notifications. The preachings of the Protestants and Methodists transformed into productivity apps, sleep trackers, and screen time reports. The way that we understand time today is something that we have developed in the West. But this is only one interpretation of time. If we journey back to the past, we find different relationships to what we call time. Many Indigenous Australian cultures have a unique and complex spiritual concept that was translated by anthropologists as the dreaming or the dream time. This term was introduced as a translation of many different Indigenous words and ideas. This dreaming exists independently of the linear time of everyday life and the temporal sequence of historical events. It is as much a dimension of reality as a period of time. It was there in the beginning, underlies the present, and is a shaper of the future. The dreaming speaks of origins and powers that are located in places. Transformed into features of the landscape, mythological events are represented simultaneously, even if they might be said to have occurred at different points in time. The dreaming encompasses processes, personal memories, and past events within its framework. Time is lived and apprehended concretely through people's relationships with others and the activities of their lives. Whereas Western conceptualizations of time are heavily influenced by ideas of progression and development, Indigenous concepts of time do not have a clear linear purpose. Time is much more malleable. If we turn to ancient India, in Vedic cosmology, time was understood in a cyclical sense. Each day of Brahma, the creator god, was 4.32 billion years. A Mahayuga in Hindu cosmology consists of the 4 ages of the Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dvapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga, the age that we are in. Each yuga is progressively shorter than the one before it. Through each yuga, there is a process of contraction, leading to destruction and then rebirth, where the cycle begins again at Satya Yuga. This is not a one-time event, but repeats timelessly, a process of birth and death, where time is an eternal wheel. If we turn to Japan, One perspective of nonlinear time appears in the Shinto practice surrounding the Ise Grand Shrine. It's the most sacred Shinto shrine and has been rebuilt every 20 years for a millennium. Each generation, the Ise complex is knocked down and rebuilt from scratch. The whole process is a massive 390 million demolition and construction job that takes about 9 years to complete. It requires the country's finest carpenters, woodcutters, builders and artisans to work on the smallest details of the structures that are set to be destroyed. To a Western lens, the practice is anything but pragmatic, where buildings are constructed to yield a return on investment. But here, it's the cycle of renewal that matters. Time is not a line, but a circle. The future, past and present meet in a returning rhythm. In a book chronicling a decade photographing the shrine's construction, the photographer Miori Anata wrote, "I was greatly moved by the realization that what was transpiring before my eyes were precisely the same ceremonies that were performed 1300 years ago, every 20 years since, and will continue to unfold again and again in the future. As the priests consecrate the construction, the workers shout, 'A building for 1,000 years, 10,000 years, 1,000,000 years, and forever.' The spirit of renewal is what allows for the enduring sanctity of the shrine." If we are to fully understand how we have created a relationship to time through clocks, we must also ask, what is the experience of time without clocks? What makes time time? This force that we seek to capture through timekeeping devices, that we repeatedly attempt to quantize, measure, and simplify in such a way that is useful to us. Here, we move to the viscosity of time, the weight, flow, and shape of time as it reveals itself through our experience. One philosopher who wrote extensively on this topic in the late 19th and early 20th century was Henri Bergson. Bergson believed that clock time and what he called capital T time, time as we experience it as lived duration, were two different things. In his work, Time and Free Will, Bergson sets out the idea that time is distinct from space, and that the way we generally understand time is analogous to space. We imagine time, for example, laid out in a line, like a timeline of events, or a circle, like a sundial ring or a clock face. When we think of time as the seconds on a clock, we spatialize it as an ordered series of discrete, homogeneous, identical units. This is clock time, but this clock time is different from how we actually experience time in our daily lives. We do not experience time as a succession of identical units ticking from one moment to the next. Time moves slower when walking down a new street for the first time compared to the 7th or 8th time we have walked there. In boredom, time seems to pool like stagnant water, and in joy it tends to evaporate. A common report in near-death experiences is that a few seconds may dilate into something much longer. In our actual experience, time is flexible. It stretches, expands, and contracts. When we repeatedly treat time as a series of uniform, unchanging units, like points on a timeline, seconds on a clock, or even repeated days and years, we lose the sense of change and growth that reflects time more truly. We lose the flow of becoming. This flow of becoming is what Bergson called duration. Bergson writes that pure duration is only realized when a succession of images permeates each other. Think of a melody. Each note has its own distinct identity, all morphing with the notes and silences that come before and after. Past notes linger in the present ones, and if it's a song that we've heard before, future notes may already seem to sound in the ones we're hearing now. Music is not just a series of notes. We experience music as something inherently durational. The notes blend with a sense of continuity. This is the difference between reading a sheet of music and actually listening to the music contained in that sheet as a heard experience. 1 minute can be interpreted as 60 oscillations of a pendulum. However, this only deals with a symbolic representation of time and space. I might experience this minute faster than a friend in the same room, and yet the 60 oscillations remain unchanged. In a world permeated by seconds, minutes, hours, in our obsessive need to quantify time, have we lost sight of what time really is? Have we mistaken the clock for what is really the flow of duration? Has the clock conditioned us to lose sight of the qualitative dimension of time in favor of its quantitative shell? We have built a world around these ossified seconds and minutes, which merely point to time rather than describe it. Our culture speaks of time as the continuous advancement of ticking units. By contrast, Bergson speaks of time as the continuous creation of unforeseen novelty. We are being choked by time, choked by constant optimization, acceleration, and quantification. Choked by burnout, choked by a narrow vision of time revolving around a linear arc of progress. We can only wonder what would happen if we put the same amount of energy that we have put into quantifying time with extreme precision into looking at its qualitative side, our experience of time in its raw experiential form. We have journeyed through the ancient past, where time was read by the stars and seasons, with sundials and water clocks, to clocks made of incense, then the ringing of bells, the mechanical clock through the grinding of gears, to pocket watches, and now to the time integrated on the home screen of every phone. Our society has journeyed from the stars above to the little stars we have created in our own image, which we hold in our pockets. We have journeyed back to when we started to equate productivity with virtue and wasted seconds with sin. In factories, time was broken into repeatable units. Work shifted from tasks and seasons to hours and wages. Time became money, something to spend, save and lose. Today that discipline has not disappeared, it's become digital. The factory bell has been replaced by notifications, calendars, dashboards and metrics. Even leisure now appears as a time slot we must justify. But this is only one understanding of time. Other cultures have imagined time differently. In the dreaming of the indigenous cultures of Australia, time is embedded in land and place, where past, present and future coexist in a fluid movement. In Hinduism, time is a cyclical movement of death and rebirth, contraction and expansion, where just like the seasons, it disappears and returns. In Shinto practice, renewal matters more than permanence, and time moves in ritual repetition rather than linear progress. Seen through these lenses, time is not a grid of identical units laid out in space. It's much closer to what Bergson called duration. This view of time as duration opens the doorway to a conception that is not set in stone by repeated units laid out in space, but is much more amorphous, malleable, and immediate to our lives. It's the melody rather than the notes that merely point to the melody, which can never reveal what cannot be heard. We live in a time where we experience the greatest time pressure we have ever felt, where we experience information at a speed unprecedented and chew through trends without the ability to meaningfully think about what we are consuming, where there is a burnout crisis, where our means of survival are dictated by a payment measured by the clock. In the digital attention economy, creators learn to optimize every second through YouTube retention analytics. Content creators ask themselves, how can I capitalize on those seconds of spikes in my retention graphs and minimize the dips? In a world of TikTok, Instagram, and Shorts, we value a never-ending scroll of micro-stimulation. The shorter the content, the quicker it can be consumed, the more views it can accumulate, the more it can cater to our increasingly hungry attention span. Even our attempts at timelessness, with practices such as meditation, become timed, allocated in small slots, where we might aim to reach 10 minutes a day for the goal of self-optimization. The news is pumped into us through a 24-hour cycle. Trends are born and die within days. We must ask ourselves, might we have fallen into a prison of time that we have internalized, where we simply do not have time to think, time to stop, take a break, and experience time in a different way? We have invented a technology of time based on clocks that conditions how we see time. We built the clock to measure time, and we ended up living inside it. But if time has been invented before, what stops us from reinventing it again?